tired of feeling like you're walking on eggshells, constantly chasing approval, or worse, being played like a damn fiddle. You watch women slip away, your respect erode, and you wonder why your efforts always lead to frustration. Let's be brutally honest, most men are amateurs in the arena of relationships. They operate on hope, not strategy, and they pay the price. They become victims of manipulation, losing their power and their edge. This isn't about cheesy pickup lines or emotional theatrics. This is about psychological warfare, a heist mental game where only the sharpest survive and thrive. Machiavelli understood the brutal truths of power long before anyone applied them to the subtle dance between men and women. If you're not playing to win, you're already losing. What I'm about to reveal are not suggestions, but blueprints, rules forged in the fire of experience, designed to give you an unshakable advantage, to reclaim your control, and to command the respect you deserve. This isn't for the faint of heart, or for those content with mediocrity. This is for the man, ready to master the game, to become truly indispensable, to never again be the manipulated. Stick around, because ignoring these truths will only guarantee your continued defeat. You want power. It doesn't start with dominating others. It begins with conquering yourself. Most men are blind to their own Achilles heels, their internal weaknesses, their desperate need for validation. This isn't self-help fluff. This is a hard, cold look in the mirror, dissecting your own psychological makeup. You must identify your own vulnerabilities before anyone else does. Think of it as an internal intelligence operation. Where are your insecurities hiding? What triggers your emotional reactions? Those are the chinks in your armor, the very levers others will pull to manipulate you. A high-value man understands this. He doesn't just react, he anticipates, he masters his emotional control, turning potential weaknesses into strengths. This ruthless self-assessment isn't pleasant, but it's the foundation of any true masculine strategy. If you don't know your own battleground, how can you ever win the mental game? This critical self-observation, viewing yourself not as a friend to coddle but as an enemy to study, is the first step towards unshakable power. It builds an inner fortress of respect that no one can breach. Only by knowing your internal landscape, every pitfall and every stronghold, can you truly prepare for the external battlefield. But what does this mean when you step into the actual arena, when you face the women who test your resolve? When you step into the actual arena, when you face the women who test your resolve, your internal intelligence operation becomes your shield and your sword. They are not just testing your words or your actions. They are probing your emotional control, searching for any hint of weakness, any desperate need for validation. This is emotional chess, a psychological warfare where the stakes are yourself and your perception of power. A man who hasn't mastered his inner landscape will inevitably fall prey to manipulation. He will chase, he will plead, he will unknowingly reveal the very insecurities he tried to hide, thus eroding his own respect. Machiavelli understood that the appearance of power is as crucial as its possession, but that appearance must be built on a foundation of genuine internal fortitude. Your masculine strategy in these encounters is to be unreadable, unflappable. The high-value man isn't swayed by emotional overtures designed to test his resolve. He doesn't react, he acts. He knows this is a mental game, and he plays to win, maintaining an iron grip on his emotional control. This unwavering composure, this absolute refusal to be manipulated, is what commands true respect. It's a silent declaration of your power, a refusal to be drawn into their frame. But merely controlling your reactions isn't enough to dominate the narrative. What happens when they try to define you, to dictate your story to the world? They will attempt to craft a narrative, to weaponize your perceived flaws, your past, mistakes, or even just your silence. This is a subtle form of manipulation, a sophisticated strike in this ongoing psychological warfare. They want to corner you, to paint you into a box that suits their agenda, diminishing your power and eroding your respect. But the high-value man understands that the only story that matters is the one he writes for himself. Your masculine strategy here is proactive. It's not about denying your shadow aspects that only gives them more leverage, but about owning them. When you've integrated your denied self, when you stand firm in the entirety of who you are, their attempts to define you become toothless. You disarm their mental game by showing there's nothing they can reveal that you haven't already accepted. Your emotional control allows you to witness their attempts without a flicker of panic, without the desperate need to defend. This is the ultimate expression of power. You dictate the terms, you control the frame. It's a Machiavellian principle applied to your personal legend. Shape perceptions, do not be shaped by them. What then? About the alliances and rivalries that inevitably emerge in this battle for dominance. The landscape of power is never static. It's a dynamic battlefield where alliances form and crumble, and rivalries sharpen. A high-value man knows that these relationships are not governed by sentiment but by strategic intent. Your masculine strategy here is to approach every connection with a discerning eye, understanding that even allies can become liabilities if their interests diverge. This isn't cynicism, it's a fundamental understanding of the mental game. You must possess the emotional control to remain detached, to observe, and to act, not from impulse but from calculated advantage. When facing rivals, their attempts at manipulation are often designed to provoke an emotional outburst to break your composure. This is their weak attempt to seize control of the narrative. But you, channeling the spirit of Machiavelli, understand that true power lies in your ability to remain unperturbed, to turn their aggression into their undoing. Your respect is not earned by appeasement, but by demonstrating an unwavering resolve and a clear understanding of the subtle currents of human nature. You don't just react to their moves, you dictate the flow, shaping the environment itself. How then do you cultivate an aura that compels others to align with your vision, rather than oppose it? Cultivating such an aura begins with an unshakable inner core, forged through relentless self-mastery. It's the ultimate act of emotional control, not suppressing emotions, but directing them with surgical precision. A high-value man doesn't react, he orchestrates. People are drawn to power, not because they are inherently submissive, but because they instinctively seek alignment with what is perceived as a winning force. Your masculine strategy, therefore, isn't about mere intimidation. It's about projecting an unwavering confidence, a calm resolve that signals you are the master of your domain. This isn't manipulation in its crude form. It's a sophisticated understanding of human psychology, an application of Machiavellian principles to the social arena. When you demonstrate an inherent understanding of the mental game, when your every move communicates an underlying strength and purpose, others don't oppose you. They recognize the architect of a rising empire and instinctively seek their place within its structure, understanding that their own prosperity is best served by aligning with your trajectory. True respect is a byproduct of demonstrated capability, not a gift. It's about becoming the inevitable outcome. But what happens when the very foundations of your power are tested by unforeseen variables, by the chaos of the unknown? But what happens when the very foundations of your power are tested by unforeseen variables, by the chaos of the unknown? This is where the true mettle of a high-value man is forged and displayed. In moments of crisis, congruence isn't just a virtue, it's a strategic weapon. If your words declare dominance but your actions betray panic, the entire edifice of respect you've built crumbles. The mental game shifts from offense to defense, demanding an even higher degree of emotional control. Your masculine strategy must adapt, not by wavering, but by demonstrating unwavering commitment to your stated principles, even when the path is obscured. This isn't about rigid stubbornness. It's about dynamic consistency. It's the ultimate test of your internal Machiavellian understanding, the ability to navigate turbulent waters without losing your compass, without succumbing to the temptation of desperate, reactive manipulation. True power isn't the absence of challenge, but the unyielding display of self-mastery amidst it. Your ability to recover, to pivot, and still embody the vision you articulate solidifies your dominance. It reinforces the perception that you are not merely strong in calm seas, but the very architect of order in the storm. This deepened respect, this unshakable conviction others develop in your leadership, transcends superficial admiration. It becomes an intrinsic part of their operational reality. But how do you ensure that this unwavering commitment to your vision isn't perceived as mere inflexibility, but rather as adaptive strength? It's about mastering the nuanced display of force, not brute rigidity. The high-value man knows that true power isn't about an unyielding stance that breaks under pressure, but rather an adaptive strength derived from profound emotional control. This isn't the absence of feeling, but the disciplined channeling of it, allowing you to survey the terrain, anticipate the shifts in the mental game, and adjust your masculine strategy accordingly. Think of it as Machiavelli's lion and fox, not as a static choice but as a dynamic interplay. You project the unwavering resolve of the lion, yet possess the cunning agility of the fox to navigate treacherous landscapes. This isn't crude manipulation. It's a sophisticated application of foresight, a precise calibration of your presence that ensures your boundaries are respected without resorting to tyrannical overreach. It demonstrates that your firmness isn't born of fear, but of an intrinsic command over your own state, a command so absolute that it compels respect from others. It's the subtle art of making your presence a deterrent, not a declaration of war on all fronts. This precise balance is what elevates your influence, moving beyond mere authority to an almost magnetic pull of deference. But what happens when that established boundary is tested, not by overt challenge, but by insidious, subtle prodding designed to erode your resolve? This is precisely where the high-value man deploys his most formidable weapon, strategic silence. When faced with the insidious prodding designed to erode your resolve, an overt reaction or a verbose defense is not a display of power, but an invitation for further manipulation. It's an emotional chess match, and your silence becomes the impenetrable shield against their probes. You deny them the crucial data points they crave to map your weaknesses or predict your next move. This isn't merely about secrecy, it's a deliberate act of emotional control, an inner discipline that prevents you from ceding ground in the mental game by engaging on their terms. Your masculine strategy dictates that your projects unfold discreetly, beneath the radar, making it impossible for adversaries to interfere or undermine what they cannot even perceive. This quiet execution solidifies respect because your presence isn't defined by what you say you'll do, but by the undeniable impact of what you've already achieved. It's a Machiavellian tactic of making your output the only statement necessary, rendering their attempts at subversion impotent. This profound sense of self-possession, the ability to operate in stealth mode, elevates your power, forcing others to guess your true intentions and capabilities. It ensures your boundaries are not just respected, but feared in their ambiguity. But this deliberate opacity isn't just about protecting your endeavors, it also profoundly shifts the dynamic of perception, altering how your inherent value is interpreted. How does this consistent underdeclaration and over-delivery shape the narrative of your influence? This consistent underdeclaration and over-delivery doesn't just protect you, it actively sculpts perception, building an unassailable reputation. When your achievements speak louder than your words, you become an enigma, a force whose true depth remains unquantifiable. This strategic ambiguity, a true Machiavellian stroke, grants you an unparalleled degree of emotional control over the surrounding narrative. It means you operate on your own timeline, unfazed by external pressures or manufactured urgency. This isn't procrastination. It's a deliberate masculine strategy to dictate the tempo of engagement. A high-value man understands that true power lies not in immediate reaction, but in the measured, deliberate pace of his decisions. When you control the clock, you control the game. Every delay, every unhurried response, every moment of silence you introduce isn't a void, but a strategic pause designed to amplify your value. It's a subtle form of manipulation, a mental game where you subtly force others to wait, to wonder, to respect your unyielding autonomy. This deliberate pacing isn't just about preserving your energy, it's about projecting an aura of confidence, signaling that you are not a pawn to be rushed, but the king who sets the rhythm. The inability to rush you becomes their frustration, and your calm, deliberate action becomes their only option. But how do you calibrate this delay to maximize its psychological impact, ensuring it cultivates reverence instead of resentment? The calibration is surgical, a precise deployment of absence and presence. It's not about being unresponsive, but about being strategically unavailable. You're teaching them subtly that your time and attention are not commodities to be freely consumed, but privileges to be earned. This is where your emotional control becomes your most potent weapon. You maintain an unshakable composure, never appearing flustered or eager. This isn't a childish game of hard to get. It's a profound display of self-possession, tactic that cultivates respect. When you embody this disciplined approach, you force others to recalibrate their own expectations. They learn that the high-value man dictates the terms of engagement. This masculine strategy is a masterclass in psychological warfare, a mental game where you exert power by simply existing on your own terms. It's a form of non-aggressive manipulation that breeds genuine deference. They begin to understand that chasing you is futile, and the only path to access your alliance is through genuine merit and alignment with your clearly defined boundaries. This autonomy becomes your fortifying wall, pushing back against any attempt to shackle your spirit or dictate your pace. But what happens when these carefully constructed boundaries are tested, when others attempt to breach your sovereignty? This crucible is precisely where your unyielding emotional control becomes paramount. When boundaries are tested, it's not an invitation for a reaction, but an opportunity for a demonstration. Your response must be an almost Machiavellian display of calculated indifference, devoid of emotional agitation. This is where your masculine strategy truly shines. Instead of succumbing to predictable patterns of defense or negotiation, you project an aura of calm, unwavering resolve. This strategic unpredictability is a potent form of non-aggressive manipulation. They anticipate an argument, a chase, or even a breakdown. You deliver a silent, decisive re-establishment of your terms. This mental game demands you remain several moves ahead, never revealing the full scope of your intent. It cultivates an undeniable sense of your power. The high-value man doesn't beg for respect. He commands it through the sheer force of his self-possession and the clear, consistent enforcement of his standards. Each attempt to breach your sovereignty is met with a firm, almost imperceptible pushback, reinforcing the idea that your boundaries are not suggestions but immutable laws. This disciplined approach teaches others that their efforts to control or diminish you are futile. It's a masterclass in behavioral conditioning where you subtly guide others to understand the consequences of disrespecting your autonomy. This isn't about being confrontational. It's about being congruent, about ensuring your actions always align with the unshakable truth of who you are. The unpredictability here isn't chaotic. It's the unpredictability of a force that cannot be swayed by external pressure, an entity that operates entirely on its own terms. This deepens their respect, as they realize you are a fixed point in a shifting world. But how do you transition from merely defending your territory to becoming indispensable to their very success? Have you ever been on the receiving end of a subtle manipulation, or perhaps, unknowingly, employed one yourself? Tell me below. If you're serious about mastering your emotional control and developing a true masculine strategy for unwavering respect, subscribe now and hit that notification bell. Only then will you continue to unlock the advanced mental game and Machiavellian insights that elevate you into a high-value man, strategies most men never discover. For the next crucial step in forging your power, click the video on screen now. Stay sharp.